Hey, what's up, guys? This is Same Old G, and I'm back with a video talking about, this time I don't want to talk about like the series I'm doing. I want to talk about a conversation I had with Tulian Perspective, Varg Vikernes. We discussed, how we both like to go back nowadays to like old school game, like really old school games. And I've been a proponent of I've been a proponent of on this channel of the indie game movement, coming from the Forge and all that. And even though I appreciate most of these games, I'm still really critical about them, and some of them fall short sometimes of different things, and some of them also doesn't have a great longevity in the experience of play. Once you've done it, some of these they are so sharp in the way they produce a specific experience that sometimes once you've done it, you feel like it's always the same thing, right? So it's really often you just they end up being really cool, really great design and stuff, but they that's all. They produce that specific experience, and sometimes they don't have like a long longevity in that sense. But some of them do, and but me personally, what I realize with time is that I've been utilizing these games. These games helped me understand design, understand how to play, different ways to play RPGs. And it changed my perspective. It changed my approach to gaming. This is the kind of stuff I talk in my series, ways to play, where some principles of gaming, some principle of methods and stuff that I apply in my RPG experience comes from these games mostly. But I've been interested in some of these old school games, because it all started with Cyberpunk 2020. I've discussed it many times on this channel, how Cyberpunk 2020 has been really influential in the sense that there's a lot of super great ideas in this game, like subsystems and stuff, and just like really cool approach to character creation and how to be in the world of Night City, or in the cyberpunk genre. So, but it's a really traditional game, based on a old school task resolution mechanic, and so I've noticed that by reading these old games, like so some of the old games I'm going through right now is like Booth Hill from TSR, like a Traveler. I really love Traveler. I really dig it for some many reasons. I'm going into Cyberpunk 2020. I've ordered Thousand Suns, which is some kind of I'm not sure, but I think it's a retro clone. A Thousand Suns, because it's new, so it's not but it's based on an old school approach. But it has some cool ideas in it, right? So, and so some of these games that are old school in their approach, contain really good stuff that inspired me. But what I do now is that with my background with the indie game and their approach to design and the way they teach you design, I kind of, my reading now as a new perspective for these old school games. So I found it really, really enlightening and really inspiring to go back and the contrast between these old games, even like Mage 20, like Mage 20 is pretty old school. I mean, there's a few new things here and there, but it's the core stuff is, it's from the 90s, and so it's, I would say it's old school. So going back, so this video is mostly about that. It's about the idea of the relevancy, like how relevant it is to go back to these old school games, but with a fresh eye. So Varg and I were discussing that. Like, he was telling me how, since he wrote his game, and with the experience he had with vlogging and gaming and playing with his kids and stuff, how he now he's going back to old AD&D and old school stuff that doesn't read them the same way. Reading them with a fresh eye now, allowing his reading to be different from what it used to be. And I can't relate, because I was not around when these games were there. Like, I remember when I was really young, early teen, a friend of mine has the AD&D first or second edition, the black books with the flashy colors, hardcover. So he had those, and I flipped through them, but they were in English, and I was not that good in English at the time. So it passed through, and I never had the chance to dig. But now, I'm pretty sure I would go back to these games, and I would find some really interesting stuff. Personally, this is why also I've been interested in DCC. I know DCC is old school Renaissance, or I need to make someone. Can someone give me in the comment section the distinction, the difference, the definition of retro clone and OSR? Like, is there a definition? What is this definition? How do you distinguish them? Thank you very much if you can do that. But yeah, so this interest I have into going back to these old school games is that I feel like these games have potential for long-term play that some of the indie games doesn't have. And with my fresh approach now, without house ruling, without changing, playing raw, the old school game, playing raw, but adding on some of these principles that I'm talking in ways to play, and that I've been inspired by my reading and my gaming with these games nowadays, I feel like I can have a really satisfying experience with these old school games, by approaching them and utilizing them with a new school way, in a new school way. So you play the game raw, but the way you play it, the way you play these games, even old school, even a game like Boot Hill, from TSR, really old school, or Cyberpunk 2020, whatever, you by approaching them with a modern approach, by playing them in the modern way, by applying some of these principles I discussed, and some of the stuff that these the Forge games brought to the table, allow for a really satisfying experience, where you take away, even by playing raw. I'm telling you this, like I've experienced it with Traveler and Mage 20. Even by playing it raw, it's possible to have a really satisfying cooperative experience without GM fiat and stuff like that, where you can really just play for a long time, and have a long-term play, that is without all the the issues and the stuff that these games used to have, because they were played without any concern about methodology or game ethics or just like social contract and stuff like that back then, right? And so these games, when you read them, they lack stuff in the writing, but that's the thing that's the point I'm trying to make in this video, is that now, with all this knowledge and this experience in these games, the indie games, even if these old school game doesn't explain, doesn't tell you how to do it, I can organize them and play them in this new perspective without changing any rules, without fiating anything, without house ruling anything. And that is what inspires me nowadays, with these old school games. Like, I have a game like, it's a modern, well, this one I'm gonna talk, I'm gonna end this there. I'm gonna end this here, and I'm gonna talk about that some other time. But yeah, if you haven't read an old school game in a long time, and you've been playing these indie games a lot for a couple of years and stuff like that, I recommend you to go back and dig and see for yourself. Like, some stuff are gonna come out and pop up differently, and showing you like some of the great potential they used to have, or they still have, right? They're not going anywhere, right? All right, thank you for watching. Talk to you soon.